Hello, welcome to another episode of Real Talk. I'm Gemma Ellison, co-founder of Heart Leadership. We would like to make the world of work a better place. And in this episode of Real Talk, I am very happy to be joined by Jo Wright. Jo is a bit of a celebrity in this game, so very lucky to have her having a chat with me. And as is the other episodes, this is not scripted, not structured. It's two mates who care about making the workplace really good, having a chat. So, Jo, before we get going, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Gemma. Yeah, and thank you for having me on Real Talk. So who am I? So co-founder of Coaching Culture, which is a fabulous digital coaching and software business to get coaching out to the masses. And also now, relatively new, a partner in FutureXLeaders, which is a movement to create leaders who are fit for the current world and the future. And it's really all about coaching and connections and community. So all the things that I love are all coming together beautifully. So that's and I nearly forgot. I'm an author of a book with a
You,
cheeky title.
I've got the book here, but it's going to come up mirrored. But the title, No More Shit Managers, let's just call it what it is. I can't believe you nearly forgot that bit. What's going on?
Do you know what? I don't know why I nearly forgot that. In fact, I only remember because I could see it in the background. So, yes, and an author of a cheekily titled book that I'm really proud of, to be fair, because I'm still talking to people today. It's nearly 2 years old, Gemma, and people are still coming to me. I've had two conversations like yesterday and today already about the book. One, that it's on Blinkist as a little summary, which is amazing. And one, somebody wants to get it translated into another language. So I'm like, I
I'm
forgot.
not surprised. I'm not surprised. I've read the book. I reread things. I read the book a couple of times, and I love it. So it's definitely a staple in terms of what I recommend. So don't forget that you're an author. Eh?
Don't
Um,
forget that joke.
so in terms of our chat today, Jo, this is called Real Talk because sometimes I think when we're talking about organizational culture, leadership, we talk about things that, we talk about theories, some people talk about models. I really want to talk about the reality of what you're seeing in organizations at the moment. And hopefully at the end of the episode we can give people some tips as to how to improve their workplace culture as well. So just I guess I've obviously caught you today in a very energized mood. You've had a good day today in terms of having real conversation. So I wondered if we could just start with you telling me what's real for you right now in workplace.
Yeah, what's going on? I'm hearing and I'm seeing lots of frazzled people right now, which bothers me. It does bother me. I'm seeing and hearing leaders who are struggling, who are feeling not as safe as they perhaps used to. The world beyond their organization is filtering in
Mm.
loudly, and I think there's a lot of that going on right now. So I'm seeing probably two different sides. I'm seeing lonely leaders, people who want something different. And then on the other side, I'm seeing organizations who get into grips with what to do about their culture, and actually their people are feeling safer than some of the ones I'm speaking to right now. So I'm seeing two sort of different camps. But I see a real opportunity to move, the ones who aren't feeling it as great into a camp where actually they can make the difference. It's not just waiting for somebody magical in the culture to make the difference for them. Actually, they can be part of something bigger. They can create a movement in their own organization because they've got responsibilities to do that for themselves and the teams. So there's lots of different things I'm seeing and hearing, and you're nodding. Are you seeing and hearing similar?
Yeah, I am. Something that you said there is something that I am hearing about and seeing a lot recently, more so than I ever have before, which is leaders not feeling safe.
Yeah.
And I think the sense of safety more generally, look at the state of the world at the moment. It's, I can't even begin to talk about what that feels like. But I'm also seeing leaders not feeling safe to manage people. People feeling like actually, if I try to coach you, if I try to manage you, if I try any of these things, I'm going to get complaints against me. I'm going to get, I'm not going to receive support. So the reason I'm nodding so sort of so much is because I'm seeing that too. And previously, when I spoke about psychological safety, I've not necessarily meant in terms of leaders. Actually, I've talked about leaders creating that.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely noticing environments where leaders are not feeling safe themselves. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on. I mean, there's obviously probably, and I'm no expert on HR policies and employment law, but there's changes there that could make people feel more anxious about what they can and can't say in the world. Whereas people like you and I are very much about promoting open and honest and authentic
Yeah.
conversations, but they're fearful sometimes of having those open and honest, authentic conversations. Um, I think there's levels of feeling fearful about being vulnerable and honest, and back to that word authentic. So actually finding connections and groups of people where they can hang out and feel safe because they're not judged. They can build trust without being judged. I think there's something, even though there's coaching out there and external coaches helping people, I think this is something a bit different. I think people are looking for something a bit different, and coaching is absolutely valid. We know that, absolutely.
Mhm.
But I think there's something about feeling safe with you, other people of your level, like-minded. I know we're going to be at Culture Camp and there'll be a lot of people there like-minded. And I think it is about that bringing together of like-minded people across many different organizations, not just within your own. I think there's definitely something about people needing more right now that's beyond their own organization can fulfill. I think that's where some of the fears are within their own space.
Definitely, and I know that you've obviously involved in a new organisation for you, and something that Lucy and I talked about on the last episode of Real Talk, and that's something that I know you talk about, I talk about, is that sense of community. I think people are absolutely craving, and I think that's what you're describing, that sense of I'm not on my own. Actually, there's people around me, and is that exactly what you're seeing?
Exactly that. That actually, so the great thing I'm getting to do at the minute, and I think this is why we're having a really timely conversation with Real Talk, is I'm getting out having lots of conversations with
Yeah.
leaders right now. Whereas in the past, I would have conversations with people about a coaching culture and what's going on for them from a cultural, sort of like the big engine. Whereas actually these are individuals feeling it right now. And what I'm finding really fascinating is they're loving the sense of belonging, community, and speaking to other people who they didn't know a long time, however long ago, but they're trusting them because they've got shared problems in different organizations. Honestly, Gemma, I've been party to conversations about things that are going on in the world right now in war zones. They've been really humbling. Um, there's been conversations about, cultural mergers. How do we bring different cultures
Yeah.
together? There's been, how to manage and lead sort of different stakeholders and influence, that kind of thing. So really big war zone conversations and actual more day-to-day, how do I deal with that person over there sort of thing. And they've been very humbling, but it just shows that when you bring people together, you can solve stuff together. You can, and I think there's something really powerful about doing that. And you're doing it with Culture Camp, and that really fills me with joy that you're bringing like-minded people together to do that, to have those conversations, to have the real talk. This isn't theories, this isn't models, this is people getting out of bed in the morning to make a difference in their job for other people in their world, but they're feeling it. Who do they go to? It's that, and it's not, it's leaders of functions, it's leaders of businesses, it's leaders in HR. It's all, and I've obviously got a cheekily titled book, and it's never ever meant to be a bashing book. It's actually meant to give leaders hope. Actually, there is a style that you can adopt to open up great conversations here, and that's having great coaching conversations. Um, but sometimes, they've got to feel that safety beyond, and that's with that community that you're talking about is where it's all at. And I think if we get enough people like us behind this sort of thing, we can create a groundswell and movement of great activity.
We can, and I think that's what it's about. So both of our interest really is not about. I don't care who does it, but we have to make
Yeah.
the world of work better. So that's one of the things that I like is the sort of collaborative nature that both of us have, because to my mind, if we have more leaders, more managers, and we'll talk about managers in a second, because I still believe they are the forgotten level.
Yeah,
But if we, if we can have more people thinking, "Do you know what, we can make work better, we can be optimistic about this. It doesn't have to be the doom and gloom attached to work, but actually there's so much we can do." Again, I don't really, I'm not interested in who facilitates it as long as someone does. And obviously we're up for that, and that's what we're trying to do in both of our businesses, in Culture Camp, anything like that. But I feel optimistic, and there's a lot of space at the moment to feel fearful and to feel worried, and I get that. But I do think there are moments that we can create in the workplace that we can have people feel part of something bigger than themselves. We need a sense of purpose. We need a sense of something that we can belong to, a group we can belong to. And I do feel optimistic that I'm seeing enough people like you who
yeah.
are wanting to drive that forward, and that fills me with optimism. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that sometimes, obviously people like you and I are on LinkedIn a lot, and I can find it quite doomy and gloomy
Yeah.
sometimes, and that's feeding people's feed, social media's feeding everybody's brain on. And actually, I think we need to get that sense of optimism and that hope out there because I know why I'm feeling so energized because actually I feel with yourself and with other people, the conversations I'm having, I'm part of something way bigger than me. I'm
Mm.
part of something meaningful and purposeful in different, and there's different areas of different execution, but I feel that, like you said, if there's more of us out there kind of pushing this wave, and it's not la la land, it's let's be real, let's listen to what people are saying, but let's figure out what can be done about this. And I think a lot of it is, it's about changing people, the way people frame their thoughts, their thinking. I'm speaking to people at the minute who are working, in the NHS and they're at risk of redundancy and they are terrified and it's bringing out more challenging behaviors, because people are fearful. I think we've got to just keep going and keep our heads above water to keep that optimism and hope, because without hope, what have we got? And I know there's a book coming out later this year by one of my friends who's asked me to read it, and it's called, Hope is a Strategy. And I think it is, and I love that. I know you can't just sit there and go, oh, I hope this is all going to be better. You got to take action and inspired action. But we can't just we can't just bow down to a bigger world of craziness. We have to do our part because if more of us do our part, it'll slowly but surely start to change. And that's what you and I are all about.
That's exactly it. Me and her were talking this morning about this actually in terms of what can we do. And I think taking that next step, just trying to, our next action be with intention and how can we interact with the person next to us. You're
Yeah.
right, those small, seemingly small actions create something much bigger. And hope is a strategy. I will definitely be buying and reading that book. Because it is. And I think you always it starts with hope, doesn't it? And then inspired action comes later, but sometimes we lose that sense. A group though that I am noticing, um, that is sort of feeling a little bit stuck, feeling like they don't know what to do, is managers. So lots of organisations will invest in leadership development, and sometimes they'll do that to say we've done it. If it's meaningful or not is a different conversation. But there's a group of people, some of them who actually don't want to manage anybody, but they've become technical experts, and therefore the next thing to do is lead
Yeah.
this group of people. You talk about the same data as I do, in that 82% of managers have never had any training. That
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by that at all. Actually, I'd probably say more. I haven't had any
Yeah.
training with my experience. What are you seeing from managers as a group?
Yeah, I'm seeing again probably a bit of both. So some are getting development, management development programs, and I know that I'm speaking to people about management development using my book to support
Yeah.
people. Can you imagine going on a management development program, being given the book, no more shit managers? There you go. We'll set the standard from day one. But it's happening that, because there's things in there that can help people adopt coaching style more and more. And obviously that's what it's about. So I'm hearing some development, but I'm also hearing the kind of frozen middle, what, they've got to look after people, but they've got to manage upwards, and it's a crazy world for them. So I'm also hearing and seeing management being a challenge for themselves. We all, see and hear people kind of criticizing them, but actually they're underdeveloped and feeling a bit unsupported. And I think that's really, really challenging. But equally, I also would plea to all managers, don't just wait for organizations to spoon feed your development. Because if you want to be a better person, if you want to be amazing and incredible in your job, you might just have to take some of that on yourself and go and figure out how to learn, outside of your day job, because it's for you, it's your life, it's your career, it's your world. You don't just wait to be spoon-fed, lots of courses or development. Go and make it happen yourself, because I think that that's where you will stand out and develop. And there's so much out there now, isn't there, Gemma? Certainly versus when I first became a manager, not having a clue, managing a load of people who were so much more experienced. I was 22 and managing a group of managers of pubs. I tell you what I all I knew about pubs was drinking in them from like being
Yeah.
at university or whatever. And I had no development. I figured it out by one, being a decent human being, being trodden all over because I was such a decent human being. And learning on the job. But I'm sure I could have short-circuited that if I'd have had some kind of careful mentoring or coaching or development along the way.
Yeah,
Um,
you're spot on in terms of people going out there and looking for themselves. There are so many, like you said, there's books, there's things, mentors, there's people who want to help. So there's definitely loads of things that people can do. Let's talk about coaching for a little bit. So I've always been a fan of coaching because, as you know, I love my sport.
Mhm.
So my leadership, I guess, style has always been probably a coaching style without me knowing it was, because
Yep.
that's what I've been used to, whether it's been a under 10s girls football to leading teams or functions in big organizations. So I'm a big fan of the coaching approach, but obviously you're the expert in this space. You've got a book about it. So why do you think there's loads of different ways, loads of different styles of leadership and management? Why do you think coaching's most effective?
Oh, oh my word. You said we've only got a short amount of time, Gemma. Do you know what? Because I've experienced, so where did it start? Where did my love of it come from? Me being that young manager who knew nothing, and feeling like I had to know it all, feeling like I had to know more than these people who were way more experienced than me, because I would suddenly been given the shoes of the boss, and tripping up because actually just being a decent human being wasn't quite cutting it. I needed to be, strong, supportive, challenging, all the other things. And actually, I stumbled across one day I was busy trying to give somebody all the answers that I didn't have. And and then I was exhausted of all my solutions, and then said, what would you recommend? And that person came out with something way better than me. And I remember that I can see it now. I can see the conversation now. And in my head, I remember thinking, why did I not ask that first? Why did I not ask more questions to start with? And it was a light bulb moment for me. And there was that moment, and then there's another moment in the book about me avoiding giving feedback as
Yeah.
well. And that was awful. And I remember that being a career light bulb moment, because I thought I'll never do that again, where I actually just peppered somebody with feedback in a year-end review, and they were like, "Arr." So for me, I've experienced coaching as a manager myself, on what and how suddenly the minute I started coaching the team, everybody lifted up, me included. We all just rose together, and the performance of the team, the morale, the empowering, the solutions, and I was like, oh, hello, this is magic. And then it carried on through my career, and then I became kind of the go-to sort of mentor internally, and I was coaching people. By now, I'd started hearing the word coaching, but at the early days, I was doing it by accident.
Yeah.
And then I knew the biggest biggest light bulb moment for me was on a change program, a transformational change program, as they always are. And I felt like I was a conductor of an orchestra. And it
Yeah.
was coaching conversations one to one, but also in groups where things all started to lift up. And I thought, yeah, coaching's the answer. We bring people through change by coaching them through change. We don't just tell them we're changing. You're all going to change off your pop. That just doesn't happen. It's not how we're wired. Life would be way too easy and boring if that's what happens. So I then remember thinking, there's a psychology behind this. I need to figure this out more. So that's when I went on and did my coaching qualification. Then that was it. It was just like, if I could have sang hallelujah every day to coaching qualifications, I would have done. It was like light bulb moments, epiphanies, you name it, left, right, and centre. And I've gone on to, I suppose, build a fabulous career on the back of it because I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah.
Because I've lived and breathed it without always realizing it. And then it's like, this stuff is magic, but it's not magic. So we need to get it out to the world. How do we do this? And coaching culture became a vehicle for that.
Yeah, and I love your passion for it, and I think you don't speak about it as if it's a theory. The
No.
power behind what you say comes. You've been there, you've led it from the inside, you've done it, and I think that's really important. As I've just said there, I love coaching. I've been coached for years. I probably always will be a big fan of it. One of the things that I wonder in terms of what you see for the future. So I've just mentioned my love of sport, and so again, shock horror, I'm a Liverpool fan. Um, Arne Slot, Liverpool manager, he doesn't sell tickets, he doesn't score goals, he's not the physio, he's not the sort of fitness coach. He is the head coach of the team. And his job is to bring about high performance in that team. And when we have organisations, what we see is you get someone who's leading the team as well as doing 58 other things. So leading the team comes on a Tuesday afternoon when everything else is done. Can you see a world where we're moving away from, a leadership being a side of the desk job to actually it being a role to coach a team and that being a very seriously taken role?
Really fabulous question, Gemma. I love that question. Can I see a world? Yes, I can. Yes, I
Good.
can. Yes, I can. In fact, one of my most popular posts on LinkedIn, and it was a few years ago, I shared it was an article from Fortune, and one organization in America had got rid of all managers and basically brought in coaches
Yeah,
to just empower, build high performance, trust, and they saw a transformational difference. So there was no more
yeah.
management. You were trusting people to do the job, but you were building performance and unlocking potential. And I shared it as a bit of a cheeky, controversial post. And honestly, it went crackers in terms of how many people commented, liked it. Wow, what a world that would be. So can I see it? Yeah, I can. I can see it because we're on that. I think we're on that wave now.
And so that if to you, you're saying that was a controversial post back then. To me, it makes perfect sense. There's nothing controversial about it, but I think it does require bravery because it's coming away from what we already know. It's coming away from these hierarchies and organizations. It's coming away from that coveted golden title. What, so in the world that we imagine, which I also agree we'll get to, what's this block? What's stopping us doing it now? What do you think's getting in the way?
Oh, can we stop recording? Because I have my views on that. I think there's a generation who probably need to exit stage left from the workplace at some point.
Okay.
I think there's generational challenges and differences, and generational diversity is a really interesting topic, and I think you and I have talked about it in the past.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of that, actually we need to replace the old with the new, but that's going to take time, and that could be, another 10 years away as an example. I definitely think we're moving there, and I think you'll be able to see it in the workplace. I may not be because I'm getting on a bit. So um,
No.
I think it's a new wave of thinking that's coming
Yeah.
through, and it's future thinkers who are going to make this change, and I think it will happen. I think there is a blocker at the minute with people who are stuck in the old ways, more about how they think, how they feel, how they behave at work, what work means to them, how they behave at work. And I think there's a new wave coming through. Oh, we're going to make these changes. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously this is called real talk, so we're keeping it real. And what you just said there, I agree with, and I see as well. I see in lots of organisations, and what I do see is a sort of a different type of leader who is emerging, and they're not necessarily holding all the decisions yet, but they will. And that's the sort of place that I'm really interested in talking to that kind of leader. And but it does require bravery, it requires courage requires vulnerability. We know all of this, and that's why again the culture camp is about brave leaders. It's about us being courageous and changing how we work. um if someone is listening to this now, and again maybe it's just me and you, and again I'm really open to
We're all
these
right with that.
thoughts. What do you think if you had to say, right, these are three things that you can do to start creating a coaching culture, or to start moving towards this world that we believe in and that we think is going to happen? What do you think people could do?
Well, I suppose it depends who's listening to this as to who I will be speaking to. But I'd certainly, whoever you are, get curious about coaching conversations. What does that actually mean? Get rid of some of these myths about it. It's accessible and it's achievable. Let's make it so. Let's get people just being curious in their world more and asking more questions and building relationships and building trust. So that's all one wrapped up one. Get curious about coaching.
Yeah,
What would I say? Actually, continue learning. Think about, don't be waiting for your development to be spoon-fed.
love that. Love that.
There are no giant spoons out there at all. Go and figure it out. There's so much accessible content now, so much free stuff, podcasts, conversations. Go and learn from the experts and go and figure out what it means to you. So I think go and have a look at yourself. So get curious about coaching, go and learn, go and be curious for your own development. And three, give it a go. Give it a go. When you've built those two, go give it a go. Coach upwards, coach sideways, coach your teams. You know, don't always try and coach partners because that doesn't always work, but that's only from my personal experience.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Um, go give it a go and just see what happens. Just pause a bit more and listen a bit more and just see what comes from it. And that's where the magic will start happening. And I think if we had more people with that sort of those 3 pointers and those as a mindset, we're starting to move forward.
Definitely, and just to throw a different spin on the question then, because you rightly said, depends who you're listening,
Yeah.
who's listening here. If I'm the leader of an organisation and I think, do you know what, I'm going to be the CEO of this company in a couple of years' time, and I actually want to change the culture of the organisation, and I want to adopt more of a coaching style than this rigid hierarchy that we see at the moment. What can they do?
They can go and read the book.
Yes.
Seven, I've remembered 7 steps to a coaching culture. You know what? It lays it out. It sounds quite linear. The book explains it's not linear, but actually use that as a starter for 10. I've got organizations using the 7 steps as their strategic framework for cultural change because it's 7 steps to a coaching culture. It could be 7 steps to change. That's what it is. This is about changing from vision to execution and embedding. So yeah, cheekily go. And if you don't like reading, it's on Audible as well. See, I really am
Yeah.
remembering about the author now.
Definitely, like you are remembering good stuff. I think for me, the way the book set out, the fact that at the beginning we talk about the cost of it. So actually, this is not a nice to have. This is costing billions, and you talk about that in the book, and you talk about, again, this is not something that's fluffy stuff that we might hear. Even though that word's banned in my world, she used it on my own video, great. But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
you talk about the cost of it, and this cost is something that we don't always see. We don't always choose to look at. So when people leave organisations, I've heard people, oh no, that's not regretted attrition. It all adds up. But then I love how practical the book is. I'm someone who likes a bit of structure in my life. I can't create it, but I like it. And it literally is step by step as to, okay, this is what you go and do about it, from building the case to actually executing it. So I loved, again, one of the reasons I like talking to you. I'm a big fan of your book, and you know that I am. All right, Joe. Well, look, is there anything else that's sort of real for you now that you want to sort of chew the fat with me before we finish up?
Oh, crikey, we could go on again. No, absolutely. Well, maybe we have another conversation, maybe after culture camp, because I think
Yes.
that'll be really sparking of inspiration and more conversations and more inspiration there. So yeah, let's do it then.
Good stuff. Well, look, Joe, thank you so much. And if anyone wants to find you, obviously you've talked about the book. I definitely recommend it. Where can people go to find out more from you?
So LinkedIn, I'm Jo Wright Coach on there. We've got jowright.com, I've got coachingculture.com and futurexleaders.com. I'm just building up this sort of
Amazing. The movement.
the movement. The movement has begun.
Right. Well, thank you for talking to me about the movement, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh,
And catch you
thanks.
soon. Thank you.